Hello friends, today I want to discuss with you 5 tricky points in income tax. While checking your test series papers, I have observed 5 areas where students generally commit mistakes. These are very small areas, very small points, but very important from your examination point of view. So let's start discussing them one by one. So basically the 5 areas which I want to discuss with you are interest on enhanced compensation, advance money forfeited, arrears of rent and recovery of arrears of rent. Friends, in these 5 incomes, I will be discussing with you about the standard deduction which is available for such incomes, the legal expenses, the year in which they are taxable, very important for MCQ point of view, year in which they are taxable, and the head of income. So basically these are the 4 points which I will be discussing in these incomes. So let us start, student. The first income is interest on enhanced compensation. As far as your capital gain chapter is concerned, you must have studied compulsory acquisition by government. Initial compensation, enhanced compensation is generally given in the question. Now, what mistake generally happens, students, is that as soon as enhanced compensation, what is given in the question, you have a tendency to directly write the income in capital gains. But students, that is not always correct. Because see students, I would like to draw your attention on the word interest over here. See students, if initial compensation is given, capital gains. If enhanced compensation is given, again capital gains. But students, if interest word is given, then for that the head of income is not capital gains but income from other sources, which is EFOS. So this is the area where students commit a mistake, is that as soon as enhanced compensation is given, they directly have a tendency to go to capital gains. But no, that is not always correct. So student, you have to understand the nature of the income very properly. So if interest on enhanced compensation is given in the question, then it is not capital gains but income from other sources. Okay, enhanced compensation you can write down under capital gains, but not interest. Now, interest can be given also for initial compensation, not necessarily only enhanced compensation, but in both the cases, it will go under income from other sources. So, first I discussed with you about the head of income. Now, let me discuss with you about the expenses which are also given against such income. Friends, for enhanced compensation, legal expenses can be deducted. So, see for example, over here, I have taken enhanced compensation of 10 lakhs. So, from 10 lakh, you can deduct your legal expenses. So, your taxable income would be 9,90,000. But friends, against interest on enhanced compensation, purposely in examination, they give you legal expenses. But for interest on enhanced compensation, the income is taxable under income from other sources and you get a standard deduction of 50%. You cannot deduct legal expenses, but you get a standard deduction of 50%. So over here, in my example, out of 1 lakh, only 50,000 would be taxable, friends. I know you must have studied this concept very well, but I am here to help you. I am here to tell you the silly mistakes which you make, the points that you forget in your examination, the points which you overlook in your examination. If you go and see your notes right now, you will get all these points, but in examination, you forget all these things. So, interest is income from other sources, enhanced compensation is capital gain. For interest, you are not allowed to deduct legal expenses, but for enhanced compensation, you are allowed to deduct legal expenses. Enhanced compensation is capital gains. Interest is income from other sources. Now, for enhanced compensation, legal expenses are allowed, but you cannot take a standard deduction over there. So, very simple, but in examination, students generally get confused. Now, the third point, again, you must have studied in your capital gain, which is advance money forfeited. In section 51, you must have studied about the advance money forfeited. Now, again, over here, what happens is, in advance money forfeited, if the year is given in the question that advance money were forfeited, and friends, if the year is on or after 1st April 2014, the date is on or after 1st April 2014, then it directly goes under income from other sources and it is taxable over here. If the advance money was forfeited before 1st April 2014, then it was or it is not treated as income at all. The advance money forfeited is deducted from your cost of acquisition. Now this point seems very simple when you study these points, but when they come together, when interest is also given, when enhanced compensation is also given, when legal expense is also given, when date is also given, that is the time when students get confused. So advance money forfeited on or after 1st April 2014 directly under IFOS, and generally legal expenses are not given for advance money forfeited, and there is no standard deduction also. So in IFOS, in income from other sources, it would be taxable. The other 2 points which I want to discuss, friends, are arrears of rent. Now arrears of rent goes under income from house property. Recovery of unrealized rent. I am concentrating on the word recovery. So again, recovery is an income. Friends, unrealized rent is a loss. It is like bad debts. Unrealized rent is like bad debts. It is a loss. So you have to be very careful in examination whether unrealized rent is given in the question or recovery of unrealized rent is given in the question. Say for example, you are giving your examination for the previous year 1920. So in 1920, whether there was unrealized rent, or in 1920, whether there was recovery of unrealized rent. So you have to concentrate the year in which you are giving your examination. So if you are giving for 1920, you have to concentrate what is happening in 1920. Purposely they will give you, there was an unrealized rent for the year 10-11. 14-15, 13-14, doesn't matter, students. What is happening in your year, you have to concentrate. So if recovery of unrealized rent is given, and say for example you are giving the examination in 1920 and they have said that recovery was in 1920, then it is taxable under income from house property. If legal expenses are given against such arrears of rent or recovery of unrealized rent, you have to ignore. You have to ignore those legal expenses because against both the income you get 30% standard deduction, my dear friends. You get 30% standard deduction. See the areas where students generally get confused. In interest, 50% standard deduction. In arrears of rent, 30% standard deduction. In both the cases, legal expenses should be ignored. In interest also, legal expenses should be ignored. But for enhanced compensation, legal expenses should be deducted. So see students, I discussed with you about the standard deduction, about the legal expenses, about the head of income. Now let me also discuss with you about the year in which it is taxable, because in MCQ even this becomes an important point. Not only in MCQ, even in your normal sums this is important, but in MCQ they might confuse you with the year. Friends, you must be knowing that there are certain incomes in income tax which are taxable on due or accrual basis, and certain incomes are taxable on receipt basis. Now friends, for interest on enhanced compensation, this income is taxable on received basis. Enhanced compensation is also taxable in the year in which it is received, as and when it is received. For advance money forfeited, I have already discussed, if it is received on or after 1st April 14, then only it is taxable, so again received basis. Arrears of rent is taxable in the year in which dispute is settled and when the amount is received. And students, the word recovery itself says that the amount is recovered, it means it must have received, and therefore this is also on receipt basis. I know that all incomes under house property are not on receipt basis. I know that all income under income from other sources are not under receipt basis. I understand that under capital gain everything is not under receipt basis, but these 5 incomes which I have taken for my discussion today are taxable on receipt basis. So students, the year in which they are received is also important. I'll give you an example for interest on enhanced compensation, students. Interest on enhanced compensation. Sometimes what happens in examination is, say for example, for 18-19, interest is calculated 10,000. For 19-20, interest is calculated 10,000. For 2021, all these are my previous year or assessment year, doesn't matter. For 2021, again, it is calculated 10,000. Now what happens, students, in examination, interest might have been calculated every year, but in which year the interest is received, that is important. Now say for example, students, 30,000 interest was received in 2021. So students, entire 30,000 minus 50% standard deduction will be taxable in the year 2021 and not in the year in which, or for the year in which they are calculated. So they might have given that interest of 10,000 belongs to 18-19, interest of another 10,000 belongs to 19-20, another 10,000 for 2021, but entire 30,000 was received in 2021. So friends, if entire interest is received in 2021, then in my example, I also considered the interest is taxable on received basis. So only in the year in which it is received, it is taxable, and not for the year in which it is calculated. So friends, standard deduction, sometimes 30%, sometimes 50%. Legal expenses only for enhanced compensation we deduct and not for all other incomes. Year in which it is taxable, all these incomes which I have considered are taxable on receipt basis. And the head of income for arrears of rent and recovery, it is house property. For advance money forfeited, income from other sources. Enhanced compensation, capital gain, and interest on enhanced compensation is again income from other sources. Please take care of these 4 points in your examination, very minor points. But we all know what is the difference between 39 and 40, and what is the difference between 59 and 60, and what is the difference between 199 and 200. So please concentrate, and all the best.